So to my guests, thank you so much for being a part of the show. And how are you doing?
Girl, I'm doing good. And this cold, it's not sunny. I was going to say sunny, but it's like cold and cloudy day out in Houston, Texas. So all my Houstonians, what's up, y'all? Hey, just shout out to H-Town.
Yes, H-Town, the city that birthed Beyonce.
Yes.
Now, what is the life expectancy of a survivor that makes it out?
Oh, you know what? That's a great question. I tell people to ask that question all the time. Now, according to most statistics, because of the amount of trauma I've been through, I wasn't supposed to make it past 25. I'm 35 years old with 8 children, and I'm probably going to be, one of the only survivors with as many children as I do have. Because, once you start getting pregnant by your abusers and things like that, you start looking at other options other than foster care or adoption. A lot of time girls don't want the pain of the memory to exist, and they want to abort. And so, you get the wear and tear on your body with pregnancies, because to be trafficked means to be traded, not being able to go to the doctor consistently. And then on top of that, you got to include if you're on drugs or not, what was your health and mental status, before you were trafficked, and then after you are trafficked and things like that. You can't get access to, health care, on time and things like that, to kind of curb some of the disadvantages of the woman's body, because we go through things, right? We have ovaries and uteruses and things like that. You be walking around here with cancer, you wouldn't even know it. I mean, by the time you're about, in my situation, and by the time I was 19, I had already slept with 1,500 men. So as you can imagine, had I not had children in between time, I wouldn't have been to the doctor as fast as, somebody who had not been trafficked or had been able to get their 6-month, checkup, that we usually get and stuff like that. So if I had to guess, just per my experience and what I've gone through, only 1% of survivors survive. But if I had to guess, the life expectancy probably would be, I don't know, maybe 3 years out of the game. Maybe 2 to 3 years out of the game, life expectancy.
Well, let me
and
say,
depend on, and also, like I said, also depend on codependency levels. Are there drugs involved? Is there alcohol involved? And what will it take for you to stop? Because I don't think people count that in when they're thinking about survivors. You do get addicted to the strip pole. You do get addicted to the concrete. You do get addicted to talking to random people all the time and sleeping with random people. So.
Well, let me tell y'all, she don't look like she been through anything. The skin is on fleek, the eyebrows on point, the hair is on point, the teeth is white. Okay, come on now, come on.
Well, that was one of the advantages of being a stripper. You want to make sure that you're on point. And I worked with a lot of white girls. If I could just be candid, I worked in a lot of white girl clubs before I was even introduced to black girl clubs. And white girls, when they're stripping, they believe in the glamour.
Yeah.
Like everything is, it's a whole production. It's so beautiful the way everything is done. And they're so nice. Working in white girl clubs they are so helpful and supportive, and just like, oh my God, you need this. It's just like, I mean, like, shout out to my white girlfriends. Like, y'all freaking rock. My girls that are stripping, still, hey, I am a survivor, but I love you, sis. And when you're ready to come out, I'm here, ready to catch you, sis. But I know that's a very hard thing to do. But it's glamorous. I mean, white girl clubs, it's all about the boobs and the legs. Black girl clubs, it's all about the ass.
Right.
It's about the ass. Ass.
Right.
It's not enough ass in black girl clubs when there's already ass in the black girl club.
Right.
But in white girl clubs, it's like, you don't need an ass. You don't need none of that. You need posture, and you need positioning. You need to be able to acrobatically, romantically and mathematically work that motherfucking pole.
Right.
If you don't know how to work that pole, baby, you not gonna make no money. Okay, because that's where your money is at. And then you got to think about the class of the audience. These are prestigious white men, prestigious, a lot of times conservative white men who do not want the ambiance of the secular world in the strip club. Meaning, I know I'm coming here to be entertained by someone, but if I had to choose who I'm gonna be entertained by, I want them to be what I see in my imagination. And so you have to meet that criterion. So you can't come in there, you know, all flamboyant. You need to be, you know, as feminine as possible. Like you have to channel that whole feminine, creative side of you.
Uniform.
Exactly. It is a total uniform. So how we all, you know, Black women, I love us, but we are raw, raw, raw. Right? You can't do that in no white girl club. You can't raw, raw, raw in the white girl club. It's not gonna work, sis.
Right.
It's not. You can't have attitude in the white girl club. It's not gonna work.
But you even see the difference between Black women and the white, because I used to go to strip clubs a lot, especially when I was in college. And you would see the difference between Black girls in the white girl strip clubs compared to the Black girls in the Black girl strip clubs. Like, it's a complete difference.
Oh man, even how the men treat you is completely different.
Oh yeah,
you can be with one John, and I'm just gonna call him a John because essentially he's, you know, they're all buying sex, right?
Right.
And so even if it's even if it's the pictorial account, even if it's just, okay, I want your presence. Okay, you're buying sex. You're buying the ambiance.
Right.
And you can be with a John, and if that one girl isn't enough, or if that girl, and we're talking about a white girl club, if that girl says, hey, you know, I want to bring, my name was Ginger when I was in the white girl club.
What was your name in the black girl club?
Girl Cash.
Cash money.
I was Cash and Seduction. Oh my God. Horrible. Horrible. Girl, so every time when Usher came out with that song, Seduction, girl, that was my money song. Oh God. God forgive me.
And I see your pictures in the club. I said, okay now. Okay.
Girl, that was my song. But see, you can't, like, the ambiance in the black girl club and slow songs is not the same. Like, you gotta give, like, anyway, I'll explain. But when you with a John in a white girl club, you can be with, you know, Trixie or whatever, and or her name wouldn't be Trixie. That's like a black girl name. It'd be like Trishia.
Right.
And Trishia would be like, oh my God, I have this girlfriend. I think you really like her. Her name's Ginger. Can she come over? And he's like, oh yeah, sure, cool. Right. And, you know, by the time one drink turns into 5 drinks, and now he got 2 girls, and he gonna pay us both equally the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is in white girl club. Black girl club,
Nah, it's a hustle.
Yeah, it's a hustle. I'm with my man. That's whoever that man is. That's my man. And baby, when I tell you, you better have boundaries.
Right.
Don't touch him. If I walk away and go to the bathroom and I see you sitting with my man, that's an automatic fight in a black girl club.
Right.
You about to get your ass whooped, because a boundary is very territorial. So don't touch my money. Don't touch my man.
Right. Right.
That's it.
Why do you think adultification is so common in black children?
Well, you got a couple different reasons. Number one, we grew up in a time where Uncle Daddy was a relative. And I have to go and tell black women, Uncle Daddy ain't no damn relative. Meaning, women back in the day tried to preserve the memories of our daughters, and particularly by monitoring and measuring how many men we brought around them. Now, the problem with that was, if we brought a man around, he might not have been necessarily a permanent man, but he would have to come around because we had kids, and there was no way we could leave them alone by themselves up to, you know, a certain amount of times, or right. You know, we didn't have time to keep managing that babysitter. You know, mama, keep my kids so I can go with John or whatever, and stuff. So eventually, at some point, if you spending, you know, 3 to 5 times a week, you know, with this man, this man's gonna see your children. You understand what I'm saying?
Thanks.
No matter how much you try to keep it a secret. And so what ends up happening is, to preserve that child's memory and not see you as dating so many men, especially if their relationship didn't work out, you would just say, oh, he's an uncle. Now, problem with that was, because your child, and you know, you're 9, 10 years old, you pretty much figure out this person ain't your uncle, but because you have not explained to me the relationship with this human being, I'm thinking now, in my interpretation as a child, if that's my uncle, but I see you in an intimate partner relationship with somebody who you saying is my uncle, then I think that I'm supposed to date my relatives too. Okay? And so here you get a sense
about that.
You see what I'm saying? So here you get a sense of adultifying. Not only that, when we grew up, because I'm 35, when we grew up, and even now, I have to check a lot of moms with their languages. When we're talking to our daughters and we're coaching them about dating people, we say they could be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And when the first thing come out of our mouths is, baby, when you're dating a man, this is what a man's supposed to do. This is how a man's supposed to treat you. This is how a man's supposed to act. Well, what you just told your 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old child was everything how to date a man. You did not tell her how to date a boy. So when she go to school
she
and she start dating
niggas, she don't even date kids her age.
Right. She don't want him because you just trained her to date a man.
Damn.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so the language has to be curved and curtailed to the audience of today. These kids are the 21st century and they are past millennial style. So you have to make your language more attractive to them, but you can't tell a 14-year-old girl what a man's supposed to do, because when the boy she dating at school don't measure up to the man that you told her was supposed to act like in her life, then she's gonna go want a man because you told her how to be with one.
Right.
And so here it is, you see stages of adultifying before. This is the culture of the household before they even step outside the house. And so here it is, you got the grooming stages of adultification, meaning adultification means that our race, such as Black, Latina, and BIPOC, Black and Indigenous people of color, have implicit biases placed on us, meaning that we can be 14 or 15 years old, but there's certain things that we can go through. And even though it might be challenging, we can stand to go through it because we're Black and we've been through more experiences opposed to a white girl going through the same thing at 14, 15, 16, right. And she would be protected. If a 14-year-old girl got raped, we'll talk about her being raped and, you know, and talk about it in the family and things like that. But if a 14-year-old white girl got raped, well, she's still a virgin and we got to preserve her. We don't do that with our Black girls.
We sure do
and
not.
So you see what I'm saying? So you see a lot of the adultifying. We say, you know what, chuck it up, suck it up, you're gonna be all right, take a lick and keep on ticking. We got all of these different, you know, African-American colloquialisms that were born out of struggle that we use today that are supposed to make us strong, and it's not making us strong, it's making us struggle worse. Because if it happened at 14 and I never got dealt with at 21, I can't stand the thought of me being raped. And because somebody took control of my life, I'm gonna take control of my own life, and I want to fuck the whole world.
Right.
Not just want to have sex with everybody. Because somebody put me in, somebody saw me as a lesser human being. They took advantage of me, and now I've lost control.
Facts.
Facts.
Do you think people still confuse prostitution with human trafficking, and if so, why?
All the time. So for instance, I was prostituting, but I was prostituted. Big damn difference. I didn't have any control over who I slept with and who I didn't sleep with. I didn't make those deals. When you're prostituting, you make your own deals. Now, those people are called renegades. Now you got this new thing where they're like, you know what, fuck it. Don't even call me a prostitute, call me a sex worker. Well, I got a big problem with that. being on this side of survivorship, because I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative, and I'm not gonna necessarily say I'm a hardcore conservative, because I do have some democratic views. You know, I do agree with both sides on some things, but I'm way more Republican than I am Democratic. Okay. And I had to learn that about myself, because I really didn't understand there's some things that were not distinguishable to me until I started writing laws and getting them passed.
Okay, come on now, talk your shit.
Okay, hello, hallelujah.
She about to take us to class. Come on now.
Wait, you see my Abram America shirt on?
I see it.
Okay,
with the red, white, and blue Abraham Lincoln shirt on, y'all.
Right, because he was our first Republican president, but he also did free the slaves, whether it was a political move or not, and or whether you felt like it was a sympathetic move. It was a move to make sure that he knew that white people were going to need to work with black people if he was going to grow the nation, and the decision was about the nation. And here we are,
right,
running the damn nation, and
right.
we need
Before
to
you
just.
continue, do you think he was black?
Girl, I think Abraham Lincoln had a little nigga in here. What you talking about?
Okay, go ahead.
He had to. All his partners was. Look who his partners was. W.E. Du Bois. Come on, now he wrote all his stuff. Come on, that was his partner. He had his partner in all his inaugural speeches. He wrote all of them and stuff. He was an attorney.
I think he had a little nigga in him too. He was just
Girl,
like,
you know he had. Girl,
right.
Come on. A lot of them did. I mean, the man who ran our money for the United States of America was a foreigner, and he was from an island. When you think about Alexander Hamilton, ain't nobody think about him being, oh my God, we had a foreigner run our money. Yeah, motherfucker, you had a foreigner running your money, who was also Jew, because his mama was Jew. And his mama was considered a hoe because she had more than one baby daddy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to think about stuff like that. So his daddy didn't raise him. His mom's second husband ended up raising him, and they were from the islands and stuff. You didn't think they had a little black people in them, then I don't know what to tell you. But I know right now, because I'm a Hamilton and I speak on it all the time. My husband is like the 9th generation grandson to Alexander Hamilton, and there's no way that could have happened because my husband's all the way black. He black, Mexican, and white. He got all kind of stuff in him, and he looked like it too. And I'm just like, get your weird ass away from me. So I'm just kidding. I love my husband. He's amazing. But that just go to show our history. It's just history, y'all. It's history. Right. We don't think about stuff like this.
Go back to your point when you was making when you had an issue with prostitution and sex workers.
I do. I have an issue with people using the words, not just, I'll say it like that. People using the word sex workers, because I'm not demonizing anybody who do associate with the group. Because ladies, I get it. But here's the issue. To consider what you do as work, that means that you can tax my pussy, and you're not going to do that.
Facts.
You're not taxing my pussy. You're not taxing my titties. You're not taxing my mouth. You're not doing none of that. And you got to understand, for me to consider any type of sexual activity, for somebody to purchase me and it be a type of work, then that means you're taxing a human being, which brings us back to slavery. So, because human trafficking is the second slavery. So you're asking me to promote something that I'm against. So I can't do that. For it to be considered work, you are saying, let's consider taxing human trafficking. Let's consider taxing slavery. Let's consider taxing people. And I am against that. So I don't want there to be a corporate institute about my money and what my money is going to. If I'm giving you money, and if I'm returning money to you because you paying taxes on it, I don't want my government paying money back to anybody or saying, hey, you get to get an EIC or earned income credit for your kid because you were selling yourself.
That's crazy.
Do you understand? And now you are part of the workman's compensation. You are part of you are a part of just what else do we have? Like if you hurt yourself, you get short-term disability, long-term disability. Those are things that you don't get when you work as a stripper in a strip club. You don't get short-term and long-term disability because you're an independent contractor. You're a 1099 employee. You don't get that. Right. If you want disability, you need to pay for that outside your pocket. The problem is strippers are not thinking about insuring themselves. So why does the taxpayers have to insure you? Why do I need to insure you? What you're doing is dangerous. We get it. If you want to do that, that's on you. You need to take complete control in all the liability. But why do I, as a taxpayer, need to take liability for you? And I want people to think about that. So you want me to pay you money that's already progressive and untaxed, only to pay taxes on it, and it's you trading people, and you want me to call that work? No, you got me fucked up. Working at McDonald's is work. But selling people and pussy ain't work.
Right.
That's not work. And if it takes just as much work as it takes to sell pussy and people, it should take that just much. You should have that same kind of attitude about actually working in the corporate structure. I mean, I don't get it. This ain't rocket science. You either selling people or you not, including yourself. This is the reason why in the state of Texas, it's illegal for you to sell yourself, and it's illegal for you to buy somebody. It's a felony. And we're the only state that has this. And I thank you, great state of Texas, for that constitution, because I believe that our values should be a replication of how we treat our people. And you either for slavery or you not. So thank you, Texas.
But is Houston still known as #1 city for human trafficking?
We are #1 for human trafficking. We got a bunch of shit going on.
Yeah,
we do. First of all, you got to pay to play here. You want to pay to play in the political market here, and you want your business structure here, then you pay to play. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. You pay extra taxes. You pay extra whatever to the city so the city can function and run their businesses as appropriately, and it helps with the city budget and finances and everything else, and then sometimes in some places certain things are turned a blind eye to. I mean, it is what it is.
Right. That's how it goes. Now tell us about your upbringing.
How was I raised? Well, let's talk about it. I mean, I went into foster care at 11 years old because I was a victim child. So I was actually raped by a neighbor. And he ended up serving some jail time, and I had a sane nurse and things like that to that nature. And then at about 14, my grandmother was granted SMC, which is sole management conservatorship of me at 14 years old. Now I went back home. There were no safety measures put in place. So here's the thing: once the case is over with, the Department of Family Protective Services, the only thing I don't like is maybe, just maybe, and I know they don't have enough time, there should be some type of follow-up. Maybe like 3-month recourse, 6-month recourse to a year to see, hey, to kind of measure what's the success level of us returning this kid home back to this parent or back to this relative.
I mean, you would think, but how else would you measure it?
Right. How else would you measure it being successful, that they made a good decision? You understand what I'm saying? And I think that if that was in place, then by the 6-month marker, once my grandmother had died, because my grandmother died like 6 months after me being returned back home, and she passed away from breast cancer. The adults that were, that were in my life, which would have been her children, they did not directly want to, control the part of her estate that dealt with her grandchildren,
right?
Which would have made me their niece and nephew at that time, but they didn't want that, and which is fine. But at that particular point, I believe the state should have been able to step in and say, hey, well, you guys are a warden of the state. I was abandoned, and so let's just get that understood. I was abandoned. I was sleeping outside. I was living behind a Walmart. I slept in a cardboard box for months. I took a bath in Walmart bathrooms, and this is before they were even eco-friendly. Okay?
Right.
So I done slept on so many bathroom floors, it's unimaginable, and just having to live within the constraints of a cardboard box. I mean, you can only imagine what that felt like for me to just have to be ride or die. But I mean, I understood some level, I understood some level of accountability, and I had a lot of levels of adaptability just because of the transitioning of life I had experienced before being homeless, which was foster care, which was being removed from my family's home.
Not to cut you off, but how much accountability can you take as a child?
You're right. But what I'm saying is, as far as survival, accountability as far as survival, I knew I needed to eat. I knew I needed to have somewhere to stay. I knew I needed to stay in school. Do you understand what I'm saying? Even though my situation was bad, I think it really could have been worse had I had that fucking attitude. Like, you know what, fuck it. Nobody cares about me, fuck it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I didn't take that approach. And, because I didn't take that approach, that actually pisses some people off, because they would have preferred me to make other decisions, right?
Right.
To not end up in the situation. But I really didn't have any choice. And it's so freaking hard for people to believe that I didn't have a choice.
No,
I think another part,
being
yeah,
on your
I think
own life is hard. This shit not easy when you don't have support.
that's so true. It is so true. And I think too, you know, the other part of adultifying is when other grown people start measuring their ability to manage your conflict. Meaning, I was hearing adult conversations of how they were going to manage my conflict on a long term basis. Meaning, I'm living with them. I'm couch surfing, but I'm living with them for a couple of months. Everything's going good. Nothing bad has happened. I'm not a bad kid. I'm not doing anything wrong. But the conversation with adults and I'm hearing it is, well, you know, you can't stay here too long because you might get pregnant. And I don't think that I should have been in a place where I had to manage that conflict. If I can't stay here too long because I might get pregnant, that should have been a conversation that I wasn't privy to. If you didn't want me in your household longer than necessary, then you know, maybe how about talk to a school counselor and say, hey, I got this kid living with me. What do you think, you know, I should do? She's not a bad kid. Nothing's going on wrong. But should I contact the proper authorities? Her parent has been deceased, but she's going to school from my house. What can the school do? And that's not what happened. It was like to move me out of the structure. It was, they couldn't find anything wrong. It was, okay, you can't stay here too long because you might get pregnant, and I don't want that happening.
But I didn't understand when they told you might get pregnant. Who was going to impregnate you? The men in the house?
Well, not only just the men in the house. You know, a lot of the people I was living with, couch surfing with, there was young boys. So all my friends was like, you know, these were young boys that I had grew up with, and they were just like, all right, I'm gonna look out for you. You know what I'm saying? It was easy for them to beg their mama, who was working all the time, for me to stay because I'm like a straight A student. For instance, if it was a young boy who needed help with his homework, because I was really good at math, and I was helping with the homework all the time, I could end up, you know, spending the night that particular night because I stayed over helping with homework.
Right.
And if I was helping them get their grades better, or getting their grades together and stuff like that, then it would end up me staying a little bit longer. It took a stress off the parent, me being around. But the second part of the conflict would be, oh, well, y'all might end up in a dating relationship with each other and you might get pregnant. So every time there was a decent situation for me to build a strong partnership with kids who did have parents, it always turned into it being, you know, let me cut this short because there's another conflict that can arise out of this, which at that time I wasn't even having sex. I had been raped, but I wasn't having sex.
Right.
So that's what ended up happening.
Yo, niggas is trash, man. I'm telling you, people are just trash. But
I'm telling you too, girl. Yeah. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, so sad. But because of you always hearing that, you thought that pregnancy was the key to not being homeless.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I thought pregnancy was going to fix me not having to pick my bags up. And it was only a bag. Like, when you are desperate and you do not want to sleep outside and you do not want to eat chicken out the trash can for that night, you are like, look, what is going to solve this problem? Don't nobody want me. Okay, maybe I need to get pregnant, because if I'm pregnant, people will sympathize with me more and they won't be so quick to put me out their house.
Right. Wow.
That's adultifying.
Right. So you had your baby and you were taking your baby to school in your purse. And I thought this was fucking crazy how the school counselor was telling you to drop out, get your GED, but you wasn't even 18 yet. And that's illegal.
I wasn't even old enough to unregister myself out of school.
Right.
So less than 10 days after I had my kid, I was sued by the state of Texas. So I think I had like my kid, I don't want to say 10 days, let's say less than 30 days. So I had Justin at 10/10/03. I turned 16 October 30th, and then 11/05 is when I was sued by the state of Texas. So I wasn't even a mom for 30 days, and here it is, I'm sued by the state of Texas.
So how did you get out of that situation and transition into the strip club?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't get out of that situation. That's how I ended up in a strip club. So once the lawsuit happened, I mean, I didn't have an attorney. I was an adult. I was treated like an adult. I wasn't taken into foster care again as a minor with a child. I was treated like a mother, and I was victimizing my child. My child was listed as a victim the entire time. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I was listed as the mother, but my child was listed as a victim.
Yo, it's crazy how they treat Black women, man, or just Black kids. If you was a different race.
Right. I think what is insidious was at that particular time, which I didn't know anything about having conservative views, was that being judged against conservative views when I didn't grow up in a conservative household. And that's the reason why we need judges that look like us. Because a lot of us do not grow up with conservative views. I knew nothing about a fucking conservative view.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I knew nothing about a man raising his daughter, whether it was Black or white. I knew absolutely nothing about that. I knew that white girls grew up in a 2-parent household, right? But I did not know what the extent of her being raised, her being reared by her parents. I just knew that she had both parents. Whereas I'm a Black girl, I know that I'm either going to have one or the other or neither. And in my case, I had I had no grandmother, no mother, no father.
Right.
I was an orphan.
Right.
And here it is. I'm an orphan standing in court and like I said, this is not a white-Black issue, because Black people are conservative, and I absolutely love it. I'm conservative today. But I'm standing in court as an orphan, and I'm being measured by the justice system by somebody's conservative views of how they think I should have been raised as a young girl. And that's not the way I grew up. So I feel like I was punished by somebody's opinion about how I should have been raised and what my life should have been like before I had even got a chance to experience life.
Right.
So, and I know it's true, because that helped me to understand why the judge made his decisions about the future of my life, because there was no expectancy. There was not an expectancy for me to get my children back. My requirement was to get a GED, find a job, and get a bank account and put money in it, because I needed to prove that I could be fiduciarily responsible for my kid.
Right. And to him, you was already a statistic.
Right. I was already a statistic.
Right.
There was no coming back from that. I mean, that explains to me why I didn't have Right. It explains why I didn't have an attorney. It explains why DFPS didn't ask for me to have an attorney. You know, I didn't have an ad litem. Nobody worked my case.
Right.
Nobody, you know what I mean? Like, there were a lot of things done wrong in my situation. I don't think that the expectation was for me to be successful in that situation. I think that I just made a bad situation successful.
Facts. Now, how were you introduced to the strip club?
So my homegirl.
Why you start smiling?
Because I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to the strip club. I have to stay away from them. They're eerie to me now, but let me tell you something. And I had the best time in the strip club. I will not lie about that. Sin is always so much fun.
Right.
I loved my sin. And I'm not saying it to brag on that. What I'm saying is I don't want people to just feel like, you know, I'm embarrassed about what it was that I went through. I didn't ask for the strip club. That was what was impressed upon me, because it was a way out. And when you are not an independent person, you're automatically codependent. You rely on other people's ideas to facilitate the future of your life. Right. And that's slavery. And I thought my homegirl would have been the best person to be able to advise me, because she had already had 2 children, and she was already stable. She was that statistical anomaly that was presentable to a court. Here's my homegirl, got 2 kids. She's in church. She's doing well. And that's what it appeared to be. And then I started thinking, oh, I only have to do this based on appearance. Let me just make this stuff look good on paper. It ain't really got to be like this, behind closed doors. You start coming up with all of these different analogies. And y'all got to remember, I was a kid.
Right.
I was a kid trying to protect my kid, and I never knew what it was like for myself to be protected because my mama never protected me.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure life out for me and this kid who doesn't deserve this bullshit and who doesn't deserve to be separated from his mom. That's all I knew. All I knew was I ain't gonna be like my mama.
Right.
My mama dropped out of school in the 8th grade. I dropped out of school in the 10th grade. There's a lot of things I thought I wasn't gonna be like my mama in that I ended up being just like my mother in.
And I also read... Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
No, I was gonna say I also read that your mother passed away, and she too was a survivor of human trafficking.
Right. I wish I could say that she survived. She was actually murdered by the guy who was pimping her out and stuff for drugs, because my mother was addicted to crack cocaine. And my mother was the type of mother, she would always tell you the truth. She didn't sugarcoat things. She look you in your face and she'll tell you know what, I love crack more than I love you. And I don't think it's a good decision for you to, not necessarily follow in the footsteps, but to try to redeem me or, try to take me away from it, because I'm going to choose crack.
Right.
This is where I'm at. And I knew that about my mother. I accepted that about my mother.
Right.
And it's okay. But that's one of the things.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's one of the things that helped me to survive human trafficking. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're born looking like your mother and your father, but you die looking like your decisions.
Damn.
And I had to think. Am I preaching, sis?
Come on now. Damn, that's a fact.
And I had to think about, when I started having children, especially when I started having children by my Johns, by the men I was trafficked to, I had to think about, and I was having boys too. I was like, I had to think about how I want to die. How do I want to leave my children? What memory do I want my children to leave with me? And, about their mother and stuff. Because when my mother passed, I get a phone call from Harris County asking me Harris County and HPD, I worked at the county at that particular time. HPD asking me to identify, my mother, that my mother was who my mother was, and all it was bones. My mother had already been buried in a pauper's cemetery, meaning somebody who didn't have any money and who didn't have any family. And on my mother's tombstone, it says unknown from her birthday to her death day. And that's how my mother is remembered. It's like she was never even here. Unknown. And so that's how I came up with that theory. And I was like, you know what? Yep. No, when I die, it's going to be a great death. It's going to be I'm going to go out strong, and my children are going to know me. My children are going to remember me, and my children will be able to have a headstone that says that their mother was here and who that mother was, and who is survived by her. And they will be proud of who their mother is. That was important to me.
Right. Facts. I feel like also what your homegirl did was she recruited you, because I remember watching one of your interviews and you said that human trafficking starts with recruitment, exploitations, and fraud.
Right. Oh, look at you.
I did my homework stuff now. Come on now.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, absolutely. So and listen, she's my sister and I love her. Let me just say that.
Cool.
Yeah, she's my sister and I love her. I don't think that she knew she was being pimped out. Okay. I think that the guy who was older than the both of us just saw an advantage. He took an advantage. He saw an opportunity and he took advantage of the situation. It was, hey, I work at the strip club and all I'm doing is waitressing. I work at this one, take my ID, go work at another one, because back then you could do that. There was no checks and balances. Today, though, because of what happened to me, there's E-Verify. See, now you got to put your right driver's license, social, and your birth certificate in the system. So the strip club has to hire the same way McDonald's and everybody else hires. You got to go do E-Verify so that the shit that happened to me, it can't happen nowhere else. So you can't go work at one strip club and then be working at another strip club and then they don't know that you working at both of them. You see what I'm saying? Because back then, you just filled out a piece of paper, and as long as you was cool with somebody, you could get in the door.
Right.
That was it. And I worked at Gigi's Cabaret. I worked at Anna Nicole Smith's strip club. Where she got found at
by that old rich white nigga.
Old rich man, you come on.
She get licked with that nigga.
Okay. But you know, and rich white men are, let me tell you something about rich white men. I've been around enough of them to know that they're some of the most informative people you will ever meet in your life. They are so helpful. They are happy to teach you what you need to know.
Oh, ecstatic.
Oh, man, they want you to know. They want you to have a better life. That's what's so fucking crazy about all of this. Because I know when people listen to me talk, they listen at my story, but not one time have I ever said anything bad about my Johns except for the ones that I got pregnant by.
Right.
Because that's bullshit. It's bullshit to expect. And I understand the abortion laws today because, hey, listen, I am a pro-lifer. That's why the fuck I have 8 children, okay? I don't believe in killing kids. Don't kill them. I don't care how they got here. Don't kill kids. That's where I'm at. Talk about me. I don't give a fuck, but that's where I'm at. I had all my kids. What I am against is forcing girls to co-parent with abusers. There's gonna have to be some type of logical sentiment, some type of legislative formation to coexist. For somebody to be able to have to coexist, there's gonna have to be a formality in the family code, whether you in Texas, California, Florida. I don't give a fuck where you at, where the girl who is having a baby by the abuser is not forced to co-parent with them. There has to be some type of limited purview on parentage. How much that parent can do, how much interaction and things like that. Because, you know, I didn't kill myself, and that was fortunately for me. But I know some survivors who would kill themselves just so that they don't have to look at the abuser anymore.
Right. Or kill their child. Yeah.
It is what it is. And I think that's one thing that the law has not considered. And I'm really, really asking them, especially this legislative session, because I'm in Texas, guys, that's listening. We're in our 88 legislature, and that's something that's, you know, going to be put on the table, because we don't abort, which is fine. Right. But we're going to have some type of just curve, you know, for how these girls have the parents. Your 15-year-old daughter gets pregnant by somebody who raped her or by somebody who pimped her out. You ain't gonna want to see that nigga.
Right.
You ain't gonna want that nigga to have your address. You ain't gonna want him to come pick your grandbaby up. You're not gonna want none of that.
Right.
And so we have to consider the new family dynamics and how to deal with toxic family bonds. Because that's the truth. Right.
Now, once you start trusting the situation with you being in the strip club and your friend put you on, her boyfriend then tells you that you can have your baby back until you start paying him $200 a day.
Right, because I wasn't giving him enough money, mainly because I was trying to meet the judge's requirements of keeping the money in the bank account.
Right.
Okay, and so my little nickel and dime money, I was giving him what was left over. And he wasn't having that shit. Right. And so he was like, you need to up the ante, meaning you don't even know how profitable you are, but I do. I was young. You know, I had my titties pierced. My titties had been pierced since I was 14 years old. I'd already had my first tattoo. You know, I just, like I said, I wasn't a bad kid. I had just gotten into some shit.
Right.
And he was looking at me like, you know, you skinny. you know, you got these legs, you can do it, you know, go for it and put yourself out there. And if putting yourself out there not enough, then maybe I need to take something from you to make you put your hustle game on, put you on your A game all the time. And you know what? Because that nigga took my kids away from me, it put me on my A game all day long. I'm on my A game about my motherfucking children. And ain't never stopped. Because since then, it has always been somebody trying to take my children or use my children against me for me to not have them. You know what I mean? And I didn't realize that was my superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And today, I'm one of the first cases in the state of Texas that was sued for child support by the men that were trafficking me, because the state placed me in the house with the man that was pimping me out, me and my children.
How is that even possible?
Well, according to court documents, they knew I was living with him.
Mm-hmm.
They labeled him in my documents as my paramour, in which a paramour is Paramour, you guys. It is a legal term you use for like a side piece during a divorce or in marriage, right? You would have a paramour. Like my husband had a paramour. That would be the name of a side piece. But it's an illicit sexual relationship. So that was listed in there. I was 16 years old. You cannot consent to sex at 16 years old. And
was this the one that was 28?
This the one that was 28 years old.
Wow.
Oh, girl, you do know my business. He was 28 years old.
Yeah,
that's right.
Crazy.
Right. So I was born in 87. So by the time in 2000, so he had gone to jail for the first time in 1993, because before DFPS, which is Department of Family Protective Services, before they even place you with someone, they always do a background check, right? Everybody knows they do a background check.
Right.
His background check is in my court documents. So he had already gone to jail as a first-time offender in 1993. Well, I'm born in 87. So in 1993, I was 6 years old.
Right.
Do the math.
Yo, these niggas. Oh, child.
You
gonna have listeners looking at niggas real sideways.
Y'all don't be prejudging people. Just know that this shit happens. Yeah. You know, like it's real. And you know, these would happen in the early 2000s when we didn't have any rules, regulations, and laws that govern how we treat people and the value that we have on people. Did the government know about human trafficking? Absolutely. But the term was used for an international issue. It was never a term that was used for the Americas. That's why when Taken came out, the first place they placed the identifying marker of human trafficking was in Paris.
Right. Because they didn't think it was going to happen in our backyard.
Right. But it made people, that was the inclusion. It made people think that it only happens in other countries, that it only happens internationally, or how they say in the military, 𝐬𝐿 is overseas.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Now, a pimp from the club heard what was going on, and he came to protect you from the situation with the nigga at the house, but he was no better.
That ended up being a nigga at the house.
Oh,
right. So the pimp, the one I ended up being with, that's the one who had to fight with the dude who I was living with, my homegirl's boyfriend.
Right.
He had to fight with him. Right.
Okay. So this was the guy who took you to the hotel and told you to make some money, and he pulled a gun out on you.
This is at the point I'm being sex trafficked. The first part of my story, I was just labeled trafficked. I didn't have to sleep with my homegirl's boyfriend.
Right.
But I was doing other stuff in the club to get the money. I was lying about the drinks, how much the drinks cost.
Right.
I was getting the extra money from that. And yeah.
You gotta be smart, child.
Girl, I'm telling you, because I knew nothing about the hospitality industry and how it worked. I knew absolutely nothing about serving people and about service and about the attitude of service. I knew absolutely nothing about it. I knew how to hustle.
Right.
I didn't care who was fucking who in the club, but I always knew who was fucking who. Everybody trusted me with that secret. So the champagne room, the boom boom room, I'm your girl. I'm your girl that's gonna look out for you. So if you need to fuck somebody in the champagne room because you done hit a lick, so you need to suck him up or you need to do whatever,
Right.
well then when he pay you your $5, then you need to pay me my money too. So if
Right.
he give you $5, you need to give me $100. So you're gonna walk away with $4 because I just made sure that you didn't get caught by the manager and you didn't get caught by SWAT.
Right.
Because we had bus. And so I made sure you was one of the girls who you always had an alibi about where you was and what you was doing.
Right. Right.
That's
Nah.
how I made my money. So if a girl make $5, I'm good. Make sure
Right.
she had to make $5 because you got to give me $100.
Right.
Because
Because
I got
bitch,
to
you
make
gonna
my
look out for
quote.
me, bitch, because I just looked out.
Exactly.
Right.
Now you do about 3-4 of them a night. You come out of there making $400-$500.
Right. Right. Facts. Facts.
That's how cutthroat it is. That's the club though. I don't know what the club is like now, but that was the club, for me back then. And a lot of the girls, because I was in the white girl club, they knew my story. Like they knew what was going on and things like that. They would always just, take care of me, chuck me. Some of them would just chuck me $25
You
here
was the
and there.
youngest one.
I was the youngest one. I was the youngest one in the strip club. I was the baby. I was everybody's baby.
Wow. So they gonna look out for you.
Yeah, they looked out. They
Wow.
looked out.
You were trafficking for 5 years, and at the age of 19, you mentioned earlier that you slept with 1,500 men. Because of this,
Just about.
did you ever look at men differently?
No, I look at marriage differently though,
How so?
because being married requires you to blindly trust. It requires you to give to something that you may not understand. Because you got to remember, I was sleeping with other people's husbands. What ain't shit stopping nobody from sleeping with mine?
Right.
Ain't shit stopping me from feeling what I made those other women feel sleeping with their husbands. Okay? So don't ever think I walk around here and I'm just all I got my shit together kind of thing. No, I hurt for them. I mourn for them. I ain't never apologized to God so much in my life, but I do it all the time. And I'm constantly encouraging other women, hey, get the bag, but don't sleep with nobody's husband to get it, because if you did that, you ain't gonna keep that bag. That's not your bag. That's his wife's bag. And you gonna pay because you stealing. That's why the Bible say he said, my house is gonna be a house of prayer, not a den of robbers and thieves. I had to think about what the fuck that meant.
Thanks.
What you mean, Lord, about your house is the house of prayer? Meaning if I need something, then I go to the Father. That's why Jesus is my sugar daddy. I'm going to go to the Father and tell Daddy God, this is what I need, X, Y, and Z, da, 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 da. But I'm not going to perjure myself against his word, meaning giving the devil the opportunity to use my life and the covenant God made with me against the kingdom. Right. That's not authority, that's witchcraft. And I had to understand, okay, prostitution is witchcraft. This is like, I was going down a deep hole. I was like, I did not, God, who teaching this on this level? Right. Then I had to, reconvene, because Revelation 12:11 tells you we overcome the enemy 3 different ways, not one way. It says by the power of our testimony, not loving life to death, and by the blood of the Lamb. And so I had to really, really think about, okay, God, if I'm going to come out here and tell my story and we're really going to do this, then people need to be delivered. You can't just know my business to be knowing my business. You need to know how I stay saved, how I stay my black ass out the strip club, how I stay not sleeping with somebody else's husband, how I stay not selling my body for sex, how I stay doing exactly what I say to other women to not do. And that's through the word of God. I'm not practicing witchcraft. You're not going to get me to do it with my mouth. You're not going to get me to do it with my body. But I will remain in a covenant contract agreement with the Father, because that's what marriage is. It's about the covenant. Right. Right. It is what it is.
Yo, that's what I said. I was like, yo, I do a lot of things, but I ain't messing with nobody's household.
Yeah, oh yeah, don't do that, and
Yeah.
don't overstep your boundaries with wives, because wives are powerful. Wives, Bible says, wife has the authority to get rid of unclean spirits. That's even if it's through the husband, and even if it's through you. I don't
Right.
want nobody having that kind of power over me. That's a
Right.
lot of power,
And I
and
don't
I
think
don't
people
think,
understand that.
girl, I'm not people. I don't think wives understand that, because by the time they find out their husband is in the strip club and he done fell in love with a stripper, you know, and T-Pain came out with that dumb ass song, "I'm in love with a stripper."
I used to
And
love
y'all
that song.
just see, you love that song till you find your husband with some hoe, and
Right.
you like, motherfucker. Then you gonna think about how much you love this shit we singing.
Right, right.
And then you gotta understand too, most of the hoes that's singing a lot of these songs, they all married and shit. You gotta ask yourself why. Because covenant brings favor from God.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? Cardi B was a hoe, but that motherfucker married. And before she had her baby, she got married too. So
Right.
but you know what I'm saying, Valentine's coming up and shit like that. You got a lot of motherfuckers trying to pussy pop for a box of chocolate. This, we do not need you pop locking and dropping it for no chocolates.
Listen. And that's
Hello.
I be telling these girls, especially my little young sisters, I be like, listen, I say, y'all better stop looking at these girls and trying to be like them, because you don't know what they doing.
Not at all.
How they getting to it and what they giving up.
I'm just getting to the money.
Right.
Everybody mad. Yeah.
Yeah, like you can't be looking at what everybody else doing, because that ain't your walk.
Yeah, that ain't your, no, for sure. And then, you know, you gotta understand, human trafficking, covenants, things like that. It is not the type of demon, is not the type of demon you want to play with. I mean, it's governed by a Leviathan spirit. And I mean, and we can go on and on and on. We'll have to bring me in on another episode so people can get down to the real nitty gritty of this situation. But I would explain it to you like this: the reason why the reason why strip clubs is such an illegal source, and the reason why a lot of trafficking happens out of it. So the strip club is governed by two gods, which is the Ashtoreth and the Baal. Right. And the Bible talks about this all the time. The Ashtoreth was a female goddess, right? She was always naked, but the Baal was resemblance of a phallus, right? A penis or a pole. So when you get girls that get naked and want to strip and dance on the stage, right, on this pole, then she is the replica of the Ashtoreth, while the pole is the replica of the Baal. So when you get men coming to pay money, right, to these girls because they feel like they doing a good enough job, that's what they like to see, they're actually paying homage to these gods. But they paying it with money that says, "In God we trust." Well, which God, motherfucker?
Right.
Let's be clear. And so you got a lot of men that's in a strip club that's practicing witchcraft, and then they come in these clubs with, you know, with covenant because they married, but then they leave with all these unclean spirits and they bring them to their wife and they wonder why they having problems at home.
Right.
Okay. The Bible says that the power of life and death is in the tongue. When you think tongue, you think what come out your mouth, but people forget they wear fucking shoes. And in your shoe, there's a little piece in the fucking shoe that's called a tongue. So it ain't just about what the fuck you say, it's about where the fuck you go to.
Right. And you bring that shit right back home.
You bring that shit right back home.
Right. Oh, child, I had to bring you back, but we almost finished because she just got out of school, y'all. She got to go home to her family, but I got to bring you back because I don't even think people understand the things that we can't see.
Right. I mean, it tell you in Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 6:13, where it says, "By way of a prostitute will it bring a man down to a piece of bread." That's scripture. Why the fuck would you want to deal with a hoe?
Right.
Why would you? Nigga, nobody should have enough power in this world to bring me down to a piece of bread. Man, you got me fucked up. But you know what? If a lot of men knew that scripture, they would think twice about the people that they deal with. So one of the things me and my husband tell each other all the time, because we always at each other's throat, just because I've been through a lot of hell in my life, and the hell I've been through in life, he has never experienced before. So he's still learning, where I'm the one with the most experience in a relationship. Like I have the experience of a 50-year-old, and we're both in our early 30s. And so I have to try to keep myself calm, but some stuff he do is triggering, and I have to remind myself he's a human being. He's not the man that I've been with before, but he might do some shit that look like them, and he done made a mistake. And in my mind will make myself believe that that shit is permanent. And I have to go in and say, you know what, Father God, I got the authority over unclean spirits. Father, I remove this unclean spirit type of thing. You know, because everybody go through stuff in their marriages and stuff like that. And everybody go through stuff, not just in marriage, but as an individual.
Thanks.
And sometimes I forget my husband is an individual, y'all. And y'all, we can be so hard. We can be so fucking hard on each other. And some of these men are not failing at marriage. They just failing at being with you. Because you too strict.
Right.
And I had to learn, okay, don't be rah today.
Right.
And that's a hard thing. It take a lot. October 30th.
Okay, because I feel like we and you got kindred spirits, and my birthday just passed. It was February 8th.
Oh, what? So which you an Aquarius?
Yeah.
Oh, water.
Yeah, there you go. You're not a Sagittarius.
No, I'm Scorpio. I'm water. I'm deep water though.
That's why. I'm like, yo, I feel like I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, deep water, girl. Deep water. Do it, girl.
Yeah.
I tell people real quick because I understand my element, and I don't do the horoscope. I don't do the horoscopes, guys. I don't do that. But you gotta understand your element and your foundation of how you think and how you reason with things in respect to your decision making and stuff like that, and just how you feel about things. With water, I can either heal you or kill you.
Facts.
If you get into it with me and you piss me off, it's gonna be a fucking tsunami. You gotta think about how you wanna. You get what I'm saying? Like, Don't push me because I'm already close to the edge. Shit, I ain't no killer, but don't push me. Okay.
Right.
But it's some shit. You know, water can be very dangerous. And that's how, like I said, that's how I know so much about human trafficking, and just, you know, through my expertise. And my expertise just don't come from my human experience. My expertise comes from my divine resource of having a great relationship with God, and being privy to information that most people wouldn't even wouldn't even see. They wouldn't see it unless somebody who actually been through that type of hell could point it out to you.
Right.
Like for instance, in John 8:44, Jesus was talking to a group of Jews, and this group of Jews, he said, listen, your daddy not my daddy. And he said, your father is Satan. Then at the end of the scripture, he said, and Satan is the father of lies. Now, when I saw that, you would read that like that, right? You wouldn't think nothing of it. But as it refers to human trafficking, it explains a lot of the reason why girls call their pimps or their buyers daddies.
Facts.
See what I'm saying? Because we're not dealing with our father. We're dealing with the father of lies. And I love that scripture because Jesus made sure that we understood that Satan did not lose his position as a father just because he was an enemy. And we have to think about that. Just because they got the title, that doesn't mean that that's who they are.
Right.
But the Bible says that God will put enmity between the woman and the snake. Right. And so we have to really, you know, we have this discernment, we have these tools, we have all of this stuff that we need to make these good judgments, but we still don't. We invite some stuff in our life. Some of us are we are just at the disadvantage of the things that we pray about, the things we pray for. We at the mercy of it because we don't really know what we asking for. We say, okay, God, use me. Right. Okay, are you ready to do this unto death? Because I do this unto death. Meaning this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This is what I'm going to do. Because it's not just the power of my testimony. It's not loving my life unto death, meaning people's lives are at stake. When we don't do podcasts like this, that's why I love you. You are a content creator. You are Black. You are gorgeous. You are beautiful. And Black sister, you fucking rock.
Thank you.
But when people like you can bring this kind of content into context, and people get to have the advantage of having Jesus as well as understanding somebody else's experience, because a lot of people won't be able to hear me. You know, the church wouldn't be able to hear me this way because they'd be like, oh, well, you know, cuss too much or some shit like that. But I still might have something in my mouth. There's a wisdom in what it is that I'm saying that can help keep your children together, that can help keep your marriage together, keep you from walking out, showing you how to pray. This is why my new strong advantage is teaching women how to pray for their husbands when they're getting caught up in this type of stuff, when they're getting caught up in this demonic harem, this occultive spirit of sexual exploitation. Right. Because you can't think you exempt just because you married. Motherfucker, you ain't exempt. You ain't that holy the way you ain't gonna deal with. Right. And you gonna need somebody to talk to. So people can talk about the shit I talk about all day long, but what we haven't, what is disgusting to me is that as many people that do go to church, we still have not figured out how to bring the conversation of sex to the church. And that is an enemy to us, because the only way to defeat the enemy, the number one rule of war is to know who your enemy is, to learn them. And you can't learn them when the church got so many excuses about sex when the church needs to have a conversation about sex. So you got everybody making up in their mind what they think sex is, or the ideas that make sex work, and the functionality of it and the faculties of it, that because it's in their mind and nobody has taught them or mentored them about sex and healthy sexual relationships, and not even coming from their pastor, then it's like, well, sex is up to whatever I believe sex is. Right. The culture of it, the demonization of it.
Or people are telling you what it is.
Right. When we could just simply have a fucking conversation. Right. Just talk about it.
Right.
I mean.
Right. Now tell us about the day when you met your Navy recruiter, the day that changed your life.
Girl,
listen.
Child, let me tell you something. Navy recruiters are the worst.
They are persistent.
Girl, that's what I mean by the worst. Baby. So at that time, I was working at a sex store in Greenspoint Mall, and I would go to school during the day because I went to Franklin Beauty School, and then at nighttime I would strip at night. And then sometimes I would get home so late that I wouldn't have enough time to sleep. So then I would just stay up and go to work the next morning. And the Greenspoint Mall, one entrance would only be open, and the entrance that would be open would be the entrance to the military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines, and the Coast Guard. And so I would go through that entrance, and in the morning they had what you call deppers. They would come out and they little PT gear and stuff. They'd be out there running and stuff like that. And it was this Navy recruiter. His name was Reese Tyler. And Reese used to see me every single morning. He would come and get the door for me. He was a straight gentleman, handsome young man, light-skinned, green eyes. I mean, everything you could think of, you would want in a man. He was just short. You know, it wasn't never my type kind of thing, because I dealt with, you know, men who was ready to give away money, not men who was going to teach you how to make your own money. So he wasn't the type of person I would be attracted to. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, you know, every day it would just be that conversation he would have with me. Just, you know, how you doing? You know, what you been up to today? Let me get the door for you. You know, you need to come join the Navy. You know, it's a lot of gentlemen in the Navy. You know, it's a lot of men to get the door for you. You know, if you can use all that skill, I see you get to work on time. You can use that skill. You get to work on time. You can use that in the Navy. You know, that's all he kept saying. Everything he was doing, he would say, you know, you could do that same thing in the Navy. And so that's what I heard all the time. The same way I heard if I got pregnant all the time, I could have somewhere to stay. Well, because that man kept talking to me about the Navy all the time, when I was at Passion Cabaret, and this is in Houston, Texas, y'all. Passion don't exist anymore, but it's some people that know about Passion Cabaret. It was on 45 in North Shepherd, and I remember I got my ass whooped this particular day by my trapper, the one I was made to live with, me and my kids. So time done went on. I'm a bottom bitch at this particular point. And it was something that happened. I didn't make no money, or I was mean to the manager, or something I did. and I pissed him off, and this motherfucker just hauled off and hit me in front of everybody. And so I remember, the next day I had a black eye, and I kept trying to put the makeup on it and stuff, but I was crying so much every time I put the makeup on that the makeup wouldn't stay. And that one particular morning I saw Reith, and I, going to work and stuff like that, and he saw it, and I remember him just asking me, whenever you're ready, we can do it today. We can do it today. Let's just do it today. He didn't ask me about my black eye. He didn't ask me, about how it happened. It was because, girls can talk, or women can talk rather. And, by the time he asked me how I was doing, it went into all the way how I was doing, into everything. And it was like he didn't hear none of that shit. When you're ready to take this test, you can take this test. You do qualify. I don't care about your tattoos. I don't care that you don't have, everything it is you need. And this is during the time, so you cannot get in the military with a GED. Mm-hmm. At this particular time, this was when we had just had 9/11 had just happened. So it was like 5 years into 9/11. During the war with Afghanistan and stuff, and the Navy started relaxing some of the restrictions on, who could get in and stuff like that. And so that was one of the things that qualified me to even be in the military, because I kept telling him, I was like, I don't qualify. Like, right. It was so bad. I was a depressed individual. I had no confidence. And you would think somebody who can get on stage and take their clothes off would have the most confidence. No, I had the most training, and I was groomed for how to handle that particular crowd. I was not groomed and trained on how to handle corporate America. I was not ready to actually put my name on something and commit to something long term and have a plan for my life or my future.
Facts.
That is the most scariest fucking thing you can do in the world when you are not an independent person. I was codependent. I didn't have to worry about that shit because my pimp did all of that for me. I don't get what people don't get about that shit.
Right.
It does bother me, because people say, you do all of this stuff you do now, how'd you do this and how'd you do that, and no, it's not a how'd you do. It was like every stage of excellence that I got into my life, there was somebody who believed in me, just such as yourself, and would say, you know what, I honor you, woman of God, for what you went through. Tell me what you learned about that. I want to know. And you know what? You are worthy. You are excellent. You are awesome. And those words of affirmation is what make me say, you know what? Maybe I am worthy. Maybe I can take this to the next level and want to do something more with my life. So every opportunity for advancement, somebody would say something positive that made me want to be a better me. Right. Every single time. And when I ended up going to the Navy, I remember, because like I said, it was the beginning of the war, and we all got our badges for what is it, terrorism, national terrorism, like just badge. I can't think of what it's called right now because I ain't been in the military in so long. I remember us watching the movie. They were showing some of the scenes of what happened when you go to war, for the Afghan war and stuff like that. And, we standing there with our recruit hats on, and you cannot take the recruit hat off until you get to like the final stage so you can put the seaman hat on. And so before you put the seaman hat on, they make you watch this video that show you what it's like to go to war and to show you what it's like to not leave a man behind. And I remember watching that movie, and we're all standing there. We have been sleep deprived. We have not had any sleep. This is the end of training. And I'm just like boo-hoo crying, because at that particular point, it brought me right back to that scripture where Jesus said he's the one who would leave the 99 and would not leave and would go back to get the one. He's the one who would never leave the one behind. And I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm the one God didn't leave behind. He would position me. He would position me for such a time as this to understand what it's like, how hard it is to actually leave a life like that and to go into corporate America without feeling like you're judged or people don't like you or people don't want to work next to you because of your life. And to see all of these white people,
Right.
these white people and these Black people and these Asian people, and, so many people from around the world, but majority white people.
Right.
But to, sit next to them and eat with them and breathe their air and
Right. Just to be considered an equal.
it can be considered an equal. And it's like, first I was hustling y'all for y'all money.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have to be the one who might have to go in and save somebody's life. And they might be white, they might be Black. Like it didn't matter the color, but I would be chosen to save a life when I needed to be saved.
Right.
And that was the toughest transition of my life. That was the toughest transition because I still needed to be saved.
Right.
And I had to transition my mind out of, you've already been rescued. Now you got to continue to survive. Now you got to continue this fight.
Right.
And that is when a war happens, because people, when you grow and you do better with your life, and people remember where you was, people will leave you where they remembered you and not let you move forward with your memories.
Facts.
Because of their memory of you.
Right.
And that was the war I've had to deal with for years of my life, because people had already knew that. And what's so funny is I made so many jokes when I was in the Navy, and I served my country proudly for 8 fucking years. Everybody knew I was a stripper. I did not hide that shit from no fucking body. Nobody. I didn't hide my children when we had to go to work and it was time to go to work, and I didn't have nobody to keep my kids. And then we was on the weekend, my kids was coming to fucking work with me.
Right.
My captains didn't say nothing. You know what they would say? And this is the difference between broke people and rich white men, because you could be a broke white person too.
Right.
My captains and them, you know what they would tell me? Well, looks like the Navy is growing. That was it. I wasn't offended by that or nothing. Everybody would chuckle and keep it going. And if I needed to do some work and my kids was there or something, people, I'll just hand them out. Here, y'all help me until I can get this done over here. To me, that was the greatest big sister, big brother, sisterhood, brotherhood you could ever have on God's green earth. Right there. That to be around people who really stood up to say, I got your six, I got your back. Like, for real, I got your back. So that's why even with raising my kids, it was, like I said, it's always so confusing to me how people say certain things about you and stuff. And I'm just like, my kids want me everywhere I went. The same experiences I had, they had them too. Like because we grew up with each other. So my kids and I, we have a very, very different relationship with each other because we grew up with each other. So.
And speaking of your kids, how has your relationship with adults from your childhood impacted your journey with motherhood? Because I can already tell you a hands-on mom.
Oh, I am definitely a hands-on fucking mom. You know what? I was just talking to my ex-sister-in-law about this.
Mm-hmm.
That was recently something that had happened that, so my daughter's dad is my trafficker. He's one of my traffickers. And I finally came out and said like who he was and stuff like that. I'm not gonna mention it here. Y'all gonna have to find it somewhere else because I ain't messy.
Mm-hmm.
But
do we know?
No, I don't necessarily know. I mean, he ain't nobody to know, but I mean, shit, he's somebody to look out for. I wouldn't do business with him or let my children be around, no shit like that. But I was just talking about that. I was telling her, because he had did some shady shit, and I written her a message and I said, the same energy that y'all had about me growing up, raising my children, I need y'all to have that same energy about, him when he's doing things that are frustrating the progress of me being where I'm at right now, but just where my children are right now. Like keep it positive. Don't take me back to where where I was, because I'm not there, but he not gonna do the same thing y'all was okay with thinking I was doing, and then just pat him on the hand and say, oh, he just made a boo-boo, it's gonna be all right. No, because that's not how y'all did me.
Right.
Y'all, this was torture. It was terroristic is what this was. And I was not acknowledged as a good mother at all. You know, ain't no, because when I stood up in court and with the court, you know, the judge was you know, insulting me and saying, you know, oh, don't, telling the courtroom, oh, don't be like this mother. She has sex with men in front of her children. Ain't nobody say that shit to him. And he stood in court and told the court he had been with me since I was 16 years old, at an age when you cannot consent to sex. Had that same fucking energy. Right. And so I didn't respond to her. What I did was I hearted her message, but I knew the position that she was gonna take, because she specifically said, you know, it's about the kid. And it was about the kid. That's basically what her message was. And I looked at the message.
It's about the kid.
It's about the kid. And I looked at the message, and she reminded me of everything I experienced as a child, when people dismissed how what they did made me feel. My feelings was dismissed. What happened to me was dismissed. And it's not so much that it was just, you know, so much of dismissal. It was the non-acknowledgement.
Right.
So the people in my family, especially like my mother's side of the family, I don't talk to them at all, because you know more about my life than apparently I know more about my life, but there has been no acknowledgement of redemption, of, hey, we was wrong, we took the wrong attitude, we went about this the wrong way, we should have supported you more. It's still, let me rah about the decisions you made as a child. And I'm like, well, I made those decisions in self-defense of the lack of surviving, but the lack of opportunity that existed for me.
Right.
And all I ever wanted was for that to be acknowledged. And what I had to come to the conclusion was, and what I had to learn, and I was talking to my mentor, Jennifer Holman, we were talking. I love her. We were talking, and one of the things she told me, she said, the same people that hurt you, you do not need them to heal you. And I had to think about that. And I was like, that was my problem. That was my problem the whole time. I wanted the people who had hurt me so bad to heal me where I was hurting at. And really, not necessarily heal me, y'all, but because I know we got podcasters that are listening, but to have that conversation with me and tell me what you was thinking, tell me in all honesty, and then let me tell you what I was thinking, not just walk around with this prejudgmental view of me without me being able to explain to you, you know, like, hey, or did I do that when I was younger? Okay, cool. Here's what I was thinking. Here's what I was going through.
Right.
Okay, fine. But you also acknowledge and have an accountability of your hand in my shit.
Right.
Because a lot of them had their hand in my shit, and they want to be so far removed. And I'm like, how can you remove yourself? You participated in this bullshit happening to me.
Because if they remove themselves, and that's the way of them saying that they was never a part of it.
Yeah, they was never a part of it. They don't want no guilt in it and stuff. And so I just, I feel like, you know, they got the freedom to live their life. I know they, you know, sometimes people feel like, you know, they on eggshells because they waiting to see. They listen to wait to see if I'm gonna say their name. And I'm just put it out there. You ain't worth me saying your name. You ain't worth me talking about publicly, or me sending people to your page, or, you know, people disenfranchising your businesses and stuff like that. You know, because that's not what it was about. It's truly about healing. Now, DFPS, I fuck with them. I fuck with them because the commissioner of DFPS, Jamie Masters, Jamie Masters, Blanca Denise, and Ada McLeod, they had met me some event we had done, and They wanted to hear, they heard my story and stuff like that. And they said, you know what, we want you to tell your story to the department because we want to know where we failed you at and where we messed up at. And at that point, I saw not just corporate social responsibility, but corporate sustainability. How are, you know, Black girls who have been trafficked, Black girls who have been treated unjustly by the criminal justice system, how did they fare well after, you know, stuff have happened, and what can the department do to be better and have just situational awareness? I thought that was really, really cool. And the commissioner, she got up on stage after I told my story and she apologized to me publicly. And when she did that, she removed, and mind you, this was an apology 20 years after the fact.
Right.
She removed 20 years of hurt by just saying, we are sorry and we see you. That, I mean, even thinking about it right now brings me to tears. And it brought me to a scripture in the Bible when God says that when a man's ways please God, he will make even his enemies be at peace with him. And I stand on that word. I stand on that conviction. I'm totally convicted about that. And I honestly believe that if you have an ought with your brother, because that's what the word says, then you need to go talk to your brethren about that ought and y'all solve the matter. But there are some people who do not believe the word and stand on the word that way, where if they have an ought about something that they want to have that conversation. Some people just, you know, like I said, they want to be far removed when they had so much of a hand in the adultification, in the human trafficking. And let me tell you, my human trafficking was more or less around people protecting the person who was trafficking me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I dealt with that all my life, watching somebody who had trafficked me and done all these things to me, you know, live like a protected class of citizen while I suffered. I suffered. I fought to get my kids back. You know, it took me almost 10 years to get my kids back, and I had to go study law. And I didn't know a goddamn thing about law. I knew a goddamn thing about a pleading. And the reason why law is so difficult to understand is because you have to know the king's language. That's why in courts, there's a judge or a magistrate. It's the king's language. Everybody, especially if you walk around calling yourself a king or a queen, you need to have the fucking Robert's rule in your back pocket. Because you need to know the king's language. You cannot walk around here. The same conversation I'm having with y'all on this podcast is not the same conversation that I'm having with legislators when I'm standing before Democratic and Republican men pleading my case about why we should push this law forward. They don't get this side of They're going to get the professional. And I ain't code switching. Do I tell it like it is? Y'all tell it like it is. But you got to remember, I'm in the office and I'm talking to kings. So you have to have the language of a king.
Right.
You can't go to the king with a peasant's tongue. So y'all stop that.
Right.
Stop that. You can't be, oh, I'm a queen and you out here rah, 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 and every 5 minutes. No, nigga, I'm in advocacy. My rah, rah is different.
Nah, nigga.
Okay. I just want to make sure we clear.
Nah, hands down, this has been one of my favorite episodes. We got 2 questions and that's it.
Cool.
The first question is, how do we help someone who is in this situation?
Well, so I do human trafficking prevention. That's what is about. We help the children of the pimps, the children of the victims of sex trafficking, the children of the prostitutes, because those are the ones that get left through the crack and or fall through the crack. Those are the ones that get caught in the gap because people automatically assume that if the parent is like that, the child is going to be like that as well. And then you got some moms who are just leaving their younger kids at home with their older siblings, and the older siblings can't live life because they raising your children. Okay, and so that's a problem. And so you don't want that, and those kids end up being adultified and having to find food and having to keep the shelter, keep the lights on, so to say,
right?
Or keep the bills paid and stuff like that. And the reason why prostitution rate is going up is because kids are hungry. But one of the things I tell people, not just to be vigilant, but to make sure, if you got a kid that's at school and you see they hungry, meaning they somebody who don't just eat the one plate, they always going back for seconds and third, third, that's something's going on. Sometimes it's not just, oh, that kid is a teenager and they being hungry. Sometimes it might be that kid may got to go to work that night and they ain't got no food to eat because they out on the street. Or they got to go, hook up with their mama's John or hook up with their own sugar daddy and they tired.
Right.
And people don't think about that. I love my impact partners, Crime Stoppers of Houston, who have allowed me to develop and train a lot of corporate companies on human trafficking, but as well as we've come up with the child safety kits. Now, I know the child safety kits seem corny, but they're not corny. If you got a kid right now, you took your kid to the doctor, I guarantee you everything that the doctor wrote up about your children, you're not walking out that doctor's office with that information. You understand what I'm saying? And so with the child safety kit, we want to put that power back into the parents' hands. And we want them to start writing down everything that is identifiable about their child in their child safety kit. So the doctor shouldn't be the only one walking around with the teeth identifying markers and stuff. You should have it too. They shouldn't be the only ones walking around with DNA samples. You should have DNA samples of your own children. But most importantly, the first part of the DNA is the fingerprinting. And so you fingerprint your own children and you keep that in the safe. I mean, just simple things to protect our kids. A lot of our kids come up missing. A lot of our kids become abducted. Abduction is not human trafficking. An abduction is an abduction. So sometimes you do have an abduction offenders who traffic girls. But if sex trafficking has not happened, then you're just dealing with an abduction. And even in that situation or that scenario, you want to be able to have some DNA to give to the police so that they can start their preliminary investigation. You want to be able to give somebody who's looking for your kid, if your kid come up missing, is more information than they asked for because you did the due diligence before the situation happened.
Right.
You want to take control of your house.
Right.
And so this is whether you're a parent, this is whether you're a teacher. I give this out to a lot of teachers, encourage their parents to get them as well, things like that, to that nature. You want to be cautious of, massage brothels and things like that. Like right now, we have over 3,500 illicit brothels that are next to, schools. And we have one of the largest ISDs, independent school districts in the world, which is Houston Independent School District. And, of course, we have a lot of problems. But one of those, problems is having that wraparound service for my specialty. Because nobody's thinking sex is a social impediment to students that they can't focus and do their work.
Right.
But sex is a social impediment to students that they can't focus and do their work. Not only sex, when you add sex with social media, you got a very diverse component. When you add sex, social media, and then OnlyFans, then you got a super outraged, a superimposed diverse component to this child thinking.
Right.
Being able to concentrate their developmental skills, how fast they understand adult life, wanting to exercise independence, and wanting to understand money and how money is used and how it's purposed for. But when you get kids that understand money and they only understand one type of currency and how that currency is used only one way, you got a problem. Because you're going to have a bunch of kids that's facilitating criminal activity versus children that are out here being entrepreneurs. And that makes all the difference. That's why we need people like me with and stuff, because I deal with at-risk youth and kids that have dealt with the justice or have been impacted by the justice system or the juvenile justice system. I mean, that's what I'm here for. But the signs are clear. If your homegirl got an iPhone 15 and it ain't even out yet, but her mama and them on welfare and food stamps and they ain't got that kind of money. Okay, sis, what's up? Where you getting all this money from?
Right.
Those are the kind of questions you got to ask. If you're in school and you're dealing with somebody in school and you get a little boy and they ha-haing about running a train on a girl, okay, well, then you need to ask more questions. If they ain't ran a train on a girl, they just sex traffic somebody.
Right.
If you got a daughter and your daughter dating a football player and he the most popular football player and he tell his girlfriend, hey, if you love me, then you will sleep with all my football players. my partners with me, then your son just trafficked somebody's daughter.
Right. Right.
These are conversations that we need to be having that we're not having. If you still walk around here talking about some Uncle Daddy is a relative, Uncle Daddy probably sleeping with your daughter too.
That's a fact. And paying her.
And paying her to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't just worry about Uncle Daddy. You got Daddy too that's, perverted. We still, I understand Santa Claus, and I get what people, are trying to imply with Santa Claus, but socially we should be grown out of the whole Santa Claus situation, because you ain't finna tell me to make my child sit on some unmanned known's lap.
Right.
It's too much shit going on. It's too much shit going on in the world for that to even be considered a safe space. An unknown man's lap. I don't care what the season is. That's not it.
Right. Yo, when I was growing up, I couldn't sit on nobody's lap.
Yeah, you couldn't. Hello. At 9:00, your bitch ass was in the house.
Right. Right.
The lights was on. Take your ass home.
Right.
We was cooking dinner. When the last time now hurry up and go home to cook dinner. Y'all hungry? What y'all want to eat?
Right.
Let's try something different. I be in there trying to Szechuan chicken and shit. I don't know nothing about no goddamn Szechuan. Baby, how you Szechuan chicken? Don't know.
Right.
Shit. But now I understand why my white sister's always making that green bean casserole shit. Sometimes they just put that shit with some cheese and mushroom soup, call it a day, stick it in the oven. That's it.
Right.
I get it.
Right. And last but not least, what is your advice to those who are survivors of human trafficking?
Oh, man. Where do I start with the advice to human trafficking? I'll start here. The Bible says that a wise woman builds a house, but a foolish woman plucks it down with her hand. Notice that the Bible didn't say a wise wife builds a house. That means that you need to have your own life before you become somebody's wife.
Hey, child, I be telling these bitches. Oh my!
You see
God.
what I'm saying?
Facts.
You need to have your own life. A man is not a financial plan.
Facts.
You cannot live your life like that, sis. Big bro. Like it's not going to work. You're going to have to be a facilitator of your own happiness. You cannot depend on people to co-facilitate your happiness. Happiness, first of all, is circumstantial.
Facts.
So nobody owes you anything for you to be happy. Okay? So, and then you cannot walk around here expecting everybody to intervene in your life. You don't want too many people putting their hands on your life and your situation anyways, because it'll be more of a burden than it is a problem. Too much help can be a downfall. Because there's some things that by not receiving the help will make you be the self-starter that you were born to be. Your self-start shouldn't only be the push button in your car. Your self-start button should be in your mind. You should be able to start something, finish something, complete something, begin something. And your ideas do matter.
Right.
They do matter. Your creativity does matter. And that's the thing about people who've been abused for many years. Usually they're not very creative people. And so it is time for you, sis, survivor of human trafficking, to go learn some new things about you and stop trying to learn people that you're trying to be in love with. Sit your ass down. Make them learn you, because you still learning you.
Right.
Get to like you. get to know you, get to spend time with yourself and stop romanticizing about the ideas of being in a relationship, and don't be quick to be in a relationship and quick to be in marriage, because marriage is a lot of work. And it's not for everybody. It's a lot of work. So that's my advice.
No.
I hope it was good.
No, it was fire. I am so appreciative of you. I thank you too for allowing me to find you, because I've been looking for someone to speak on this topic, and I feel like you are the epitome of what my brand stands for, the professional homegirl. So I really, really, really thank you so much. Like, we're gonna talk off the screen because I want to share something with you. But I'm super excited that I met you. Like, seriously.
Oh, sis, I love you already. And we gonna stay in touch.
Yes, we already are, because I'm gonna share some exciting news that the listeners don't know yet. But if y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, please make sure to email me at hello@thephcpodcast.com. And until next time, everyone, later.
Peace.